Happy Monday, everybody. Sports guy Chris checking in, back at it, giving you an update after yesterday's busy day in the world of college basketball. Giving you a quick bubble update and who the big winners were and who really was able to help their prospective resumes for an at-large bid after yesterday's action. Of course, there were some other big games with ranked teams in action as well. I'm going to touch on those briefly right here to tip things off in today's video. So one of the bigger games of the day yesterday was Creighton going at it with Butler in the Big East. The Blue Jays were at home for that one, and a struggling Butler team continued to struggle in Big East play. This was a team that was ranked even in the top 10 back at the beginning of the year. Creighton was able to roll to a blowout victory over the Bulldogs, and Creighton now is sitting pretty in the Big East at 11-4 in league play and 22-6 overall. They are really making a run of it as of late. Butler has now dropped to just 7-8 in Big East play. They are still 19-9 overall and have extremely solid metrics. They're not in danger of not making the tournament, but I think it's a great example of how deep and difficult the Big East is when you have a team like Butler who breezed through the non-conference, had a couple of difficult games in their non-conference, still have metrics, up in the top 20, 25, and they're just 7-8 in league play after yesterday's setback. So the other big game of the day was Maryland visiting Ohio State in the Big Ten. The Terrapins came in winners of 9 straight with a sparkling 22-4 record. Ohio State was able to get the big victory. The Buckeyes 79-72. So that helps solidify their resume, probably help move them up a seed line or two. I think Ohio State now is probably floating around in the 5 to 7 seed range. Maryland is still going to be a top 2 or 3 seed. It's not a bad loss, certainly on the road to a number 25 Ohio State team. But now I'd like to jump into the big winners in terms of the bubble. There were a couple really important games yesterday when it comes to the NCAA Tournament bubble and these prospective teams trying to bolster their resume to grab an at-large bid. And really, I believe the biggest winner of the day yesterday was the Indiana Hoosiers. Indiana, of course, was at home against number 9 Penn State. A huge opportunity for the Hoosiers to pick up a quality marquee quad 1 victory on their home floor, and they were able to get it done. Taking care of business against the Nittany Lions 68-60. The victory was a big one for Indiana. It moved them to 500 in league play, now at 8-8 and 18-9 overall. With a 58 net ranking and a 22 strength of schedule, Indiana is what I believe looking pretty good. I had them as last 4 in going into that game yesterday. That victory kind of helps, I think, move them up a little bit. Still work to do for the Hoosiers, but it was a big win yesterday. They picked up the quad 1 win, and they really needed it. So Indiana was the big winner of the day, strengthening their resume. I believe it helps bump them up a little bit. I would have Indiana as an 11 seed right now. I think it kind of gets them out of that last 4 in territory. So the other big game yesterday when it came to the bubble was in the American Athletic between 2 teams that I had as in the last 4 group right now. Wichita State and Cincinnati were going at it yesterday from Cincinnati, and the Bearcats were able to pull out a 67-64 victory over the Shockers. It was a big one. The Cincinnati need to bounce back after a loss the other day, and Wichita State was hoping to keep it going. They've won a few in a row here and been on a little bit of a streak. But so now you take a look at how those 2 teams are shaping up. And going into yesterday, Cincinnati was sitting with a net of 53 and a strength of schedule of 68. Wichita State a little bit more comfortable with a 43 net strength of schedule of 74. So both of those teams very much, with bubble-ish type of resumes. And the victory for Cincinnati, of course, is a big one. I would still have both of these teams in, but Wichita State now is going to need to grab a couple more victories to kind of help out their case. But anyway, big win for Cincinnati there between a pair of bubble teams in the American Athletic. Certainly, that was a big one, especially at home. A road win for Wichita State would have really bumped them significantly ahead of Cincinnati. So a big one there. A couple of other games when it came to the bubble. USC kind of comfortably in, but then they went to Utah and were blown out yesterday 79-65. Same Utah team that was defeated on their home floor a couple nights ago by UCLA. So the Trojans are still, sitting along comfortably, I believe, but you don't want to drop too many more. So especially with UCLA coming on and still having to deal with Stanford, who, speaking of Stanford, the Cardinal actually got a 18-point road victory at Washington State yesterday, which doesn't do much for a resume boost, but it was a road blowout nonetheless, which is going to help them a little bit. And when you look at Stanford, they're still hanging around at 7-7 in Pac-12 play, 18-9 overall. They have a very solid 32 net ranking, which I think keeps them in the the bubble conversation for an at-large. They have a 75 strength of schedule. So Stanford's still in the mix. I was ready to kind of write this team off maybe a week ago or so, but a road victory yesterday in dominant fashion kind of has them back on the bubble and in position. So you can make the argument Stanford was a big winner yesterday as well, especially coupled with the fact that USC lost on the road. So the other game, as far as the bubble goes, Minnesota trying to, stay relevant. I've got the Gophers out. They have a lot of work to do, but they did go on the road and blow out last place Northwestern 83-57 yesterday. The net ranking, despite the Gophers being just 13-13 and 7-9 in Big Ten play, is still 51 with a strength of schedule, one of the actually top 3 strength of schedules in the country. So Minnesota is still sitting there. The strength of schedule and the net, I think, has them in the conversation enough, coupled with the fact that they have a couple of impressive blowout victories. Now, they did happen at home. So I think Minnesota still has a lot of work to do. They're kind of still barely clinging to life, but they got to win yesterday, and that's what you got to do this time of year. You just have to keep winning no matter who it's against. But big winner of the day yesterday, the Indiana Hoosiers, kind of helping solidify their resume, maybe helping to get them a little bit more comfortably in with that big victory over Penn State. And, of course, Cincinnati squeaking it out against Wichita State in a battle between two bubble teams there in the American Athletics. So there is your bubble update for Monday, guys. Again, I like Indiana at this point and where they're going. And, Wichita State is still in. They're going to be one of the last 4 in. But, they've got some work to do. Going to have to win some games down the stretch. So that is a quick bubble update after yesterday's games. I will be back again with another video, of course. And make sure to check me out on Instagram at SportsGuyChris and on Scorum, SCORUM, at SportsGuyChris. Have another article out later today, keeping you guys updated with everything pertinent here in the world of college hoops as we get closer and closer to the big dance. Happy Monday, everybody. Have a great day.